Washington, wipe out Wall Street and your retirement seems to be a common concern. Here to help us answer and address all financial, investing, and retirement concerns, President, founder of GulfCoast Financial Services, John Kuykendall. Of course, GulfCoast Financial Services, perennially named best of the best in financial services by readers of the Lake City Reporter. John, you've been serving proactive-minded savers and investors for 32 years. And this year, no different. There's concerns about our financial outlook and the financial future. Are you hearing a lot about it?
Oh, yeah, Peter. We're hearing a lot about the legislative situation we're in, taxes, Social Security, Medicare, and healthcare funding. So, I mean, a lot of people are concerned about where we're going, where we're headed. One of the risks in retirement is legislative risk. And a lot of people don't understand that.
The ability for Washington to sort of move the cheese, right? To change the rules on us.
Well, yeah. And as we've said on this show many times, in December of 25, we're going to get a big shift because we get new tax laws. Either they're going to rewrite the ones that are on the books now, or we're going back to what we had in 2017. So a big shift coming up, but certainly, Washington never ceases to surprise.
Well, one of the statements in our founding documents is that it's the job of those elected officials to try to ensure domestic tranquility, right? And it just does not seem like Washington has moved that direction for as long as I can remember. And I think my parents and their parents may have felt the same way, that generationally, it does not seem like they are helping to address and solve a lot of the issues, a lot of the problems, and a lot of the concerns on the minds of savers and investors. So let's move through a few of these, John, and get your take on the solvency of the systems that we depend on the rules around taxation and our retirement accounts, on the stability and the strength of the dollar itself. These are concerns that I'm sure you hear about each and every day.
They are, Peter. And one of the biggest ones is the debt. We've got $35 trillion in debt that we actually owe, and then about 125 or so trillion in the Medicare and Social Security unfunded part. And as I told you earlier, in 2023, just to pay the interest on our debt was over $600 billion. I mean, that's a lot of money. We didn't reduce principal at all. We added to the debt, but as interest rates go up, we have to pay more. And so with higher interest rates, it takes more of our dollars to fund just the interest. But nobody seems to be concerned about that, Peter.
Yeah, if we operated under the same kind of system in our household, John, we max out our credit cards and then call the credit card company and say, hey, just increase my limits. We don't need to worry about that, nor the interest payments, right?
Right. Well, they'd raise your interest rate real quick on that. I guarantee you. But Washington's got a kind of a mindset that we can print our way out of this by just printing more money, and that doesn't do anything. The giveaways and the handouts and the pork, adding, getting one bill passed, but adding a lot of other bills. I read the other day that when we did the first Secure Act in 2020, that one of the statements was, if you want to know what's in it, let's pass it, and then we'll find out. And so we've got to get out of that mindset. We've got to get to the point to where we can reduce our deficit. And you don't hear people talking about that anymore, Peter. It used to be a political point that all the parties were talking about reducing the debt, balancing the budget. Remember, Reagan had a zero-based budget. You don't hear about that anymore.
Yeah, I think that the last time there was a balanced budget may have been in the very, very early 2000s, but it's been more than 2 decades where we have not seen a balanced budget. And there's two sides of any budget, right, John? Is that there is the income side and then the spending side, and the government doesn't produce any widgets, doesn't sell any products for a profit, doesn't provide any services at a charge. Their income is from us, taxes. And then their spending side, I think you've already sort of discussed, they don't seem to slow down on the spending side. So are a lot of people worried that this continuous budget deficit means that taxes are going to be higher in the future?
Well, Peter, there's only two ways that we can fund what we're spending. One is reduce spending, and you just said we're not doing that, and we're not. The other way is to increase taxes. So, I mean, the government has to get more money. I know in one of Biden's proposals, that was anybody that had over $100 million net worth would get a 25% surcharge. So, I mean, there are ways that we're going to start charging. And as I've said before, I think that a lot of the stuff that we get, Medicare, Social Security, is going to be based on income. The more income you have, the less you're going to get, the more you're going to have to pay. So we're headed that way, and people need to be aware of it.
Well, John, you spoke about legislative risk being a risk to retirement. And then you've mentioned a couple things already that I think are examples of that legislative risk where the government can change the rules, right? You mentioned the Secure Act, and I know there have been a couple rounds of that. And then you mentioned that the tax rates as we currently know them expire at the end of 2025. These are examples of where the rules for retirement, for our money and finance can change, and it's likely that they're going to continue to make changes into the future.
Well, it's going to be big changes, Peter. I mean, right now we're getting a couple is getting close to $30,000 in standard deductions. We're not going to have that. We go back to the old way, it's about $12,000 for a couple. So you can see that we're gonna be end up paying more taxes. So we have to be aware of what's going. We have to make changes as we go, and we have to be ready, be proactive for what we think is coming down the pike. And so it behooves all of us in retirement to make sure that we have an income plan in place, that income plan is updated, and we can adapt to a new income plan very simply. Yeah, I mean, we've got to be ready. Legislative changes, they don't necessarily grandfather you. As the Secure Act, when that took place in December 31st, it took place. On January 1, we had new laws. There was no time to plan, no time to make changes. So we have to be ready.
You mentioned that written income plan. You make the offer each week on the program to help proactive minded savers and investors, those who are concerned about their financial future, to get that written retirement income plan put together. That's going to go a big way, going to go a long way, not in addressing some of these issues that are outside of our control, like legislative risk and market risk and tax law changes, but it can help to protect and isolate us as individuals if those things and when those things do occur into the future, right?
That's right. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to give us an income stream that's predictable, sustainable, and we know that we have our necessaries covered, and then we can fund our wants out of the growth bucket. So we have to have that income plan in place so that we can be proactive. I mean, Peter, we haven't even talked about the fact that, if the dollar loses its dominance globally, and there's been a lot of talk, and a lot of our clients are concerned about China, coming up with a currency that's going to take over for the dollar. I mean, that's something that is a huge threat. And we have to be ready to what that's going to do to the market, what's going to do to our currency, what's it going to do to our spending power.
John, I think that the solvency, and you beat me to it because that was my next kind of question. The strength of the dollar itself seems to be an ever-growing concern. Is there anything that an individual can do about that, or are we sort of just all together on that sinking ship?
Well, we're on the sinking ship together, but what we have to do is we have to be proactive. We have to make sure that, like I said, we have the income plan, we have bonds, our portfolio is diversified. It's not made up all of global companies. We have to have some bonds and other things within our portfolio. So certainly, Peter, there are some things that we can do to be proactive. And the main thing is to be diligent and know what's going to happen in the future. Listen to what's going on, and then try to be proactive.
The dollar may not lose its value overnight. Rather, it may be over time. And that is another factor that we've all been dealing with, certainly over the last several years, inflation. Just kind of a gradual process of the dollar losing its strength and its purchasing power. That's another very important factor to include in your income plan for retirement that unfortunately, John, I think a lot of plans seem to overlook.
Well, I think they do, Peter, because you know, a dollar today is not going to be what a dollar's worth 20 years from now. We know that it's going to cost more. And so if we look at all of the things, housing, we look at cars, we look at, you know, I saw a pickup truck that was listed the other day for $100,000. Now, you know, back in 1980, a pickup truck was probably about $6,000. And, you know, now we're talking about $100,000 for an F-150 Ford pickup truck. It's crazy what we're having to spend and what it's costing us to live. And we're going to have to downsize, redo our thinking. But at the same time, we have to understand inflation is going to take a big bite out of your portfolio unless we have ways set aside to grow our portfolio. That's why that income plan, Peter, will have an income stream, but it'll also have a growth stream. We want to make sure that we stay in the market while the market's good so that we can make as much as we can in order to grow our portfolio to handle that inflation coming down. Medical costs, Peter, medical costs are going to go sky high. You know, more and more of us are aging, more and more of us are getting into that nursing home scenario, that assisted care. And I know that I read in Florida that the other day that an assistant to come into your house and just kind of help you is $20 an hour. 8 years ago, it was $10 an hour. So we have to be ready for those costs in our income plan.
Yeah, unfortunately, an expense that we are more and more likely to incur and encounter as we age and move through retirement is, in particular, one of the expenses that is most impacted by inflation. In fact, growing even faster than the inflation rate on other things at a time during retirement when we are particularly vulnerable to inflation. So again, John, just more reason why we've got to have both the growth bucket and the income bucket. The financially focused written retirement plan helps to address that balance and show people how they can set that up. Is a process that you do there at GulfCoast Financial Services with you and your team each and every day.
That's right, Peter. And that's what we really want to do for people is to help them come up with that income plan. You know, the one thing that the government doesn't do is it doesn't cover long-term care for those of us who have money. And so we're going to have to fund that ourselves. We need to be ready for that. And so few people are that they just don't think we're ever going to need it. But trust me, Peter, the older we get, the harder it is to get around. I can tell you that.
Well, if you would like to make sure that you've got a plan for lasting financial confidence that addresses your specific goals, that takes a look at the assets that you have and shows you the roadmap of how to get those dollars to work their hardest to help you continue to achieve and accomplish the confident lifestyle that you envision in retirement, then give GulfCoast Financial Services, John Kuykendall, a call for that complimentary review, that retirement planning strategy session, and to get your written financially focused retirement income plan put together. 386-755-9018. That's 386-755-9018, 386-755-9018, or you can visit online, gulfcoastfinancial.net, gulfcoastfinancial.net. You've got a great guide available on your website that people can download for free, the roadmap to retirement that talks about a lot of these concerns. But John, one of the top concerns, I think rightfully so, is that it seems across America, we are concerned that Washington is only putting short-term band-aids on long-term problems and not truly showing us a way that can give us financial security and stability moving forward. And I think a lot of concerned savers and investors are worried about the impacts of that approach and what that will mean for our financial outlook into the future.
Well, that's right, Peter. You know, for a long time, we've known that Social Security was not going to be able to fund 100 cents on the dollar unless something was done. We've known that Medicare was in trouble and needed support after 2033, I think it is. So, you know, those things should have been addressed a long time ago to make changes so it wouldn't be so drastic when it happens. But what we've done is we've kind of, you know, put it in the back closet and act like we don't address it. It's not going to happen. But You know, last year we paid out more than we put into Social Security. So we know that eventually we're going to run short on money. We're going to be able to fund some of the money, but usually about 77 cents on the dollar. So people need to be aware of that. We're going to be running some lunch and learns on taxes, what we see happening on tax code, what we see happening in the future with Medicare, Social Security, long-term care. I want people to be aware of that. When we'll put those on the website, we'd love to have y'all come in. We'll have more papers on our website about the different things. But be vigilant, know what's happening, and be ready for this election that's coming up.
Yep. Check out the website. Great resources there, educational, learning opportunities on an ongoing basis, GulfCoastFinancial.net, GulfCoastFinancial.net. Certainly, there are a lot of risks in retirement, forces and factors that are outside of our own control, market volatility, taxation, inflation, legislative risk, just to name a few. We cannot control those personally as individuals, but we can take steps to protect ourselves from them and to isolate and insulate our financial situation. So we must take a proactive approach to taking our own future in our own hands. That involves strategic, methodical, ongoing planning. And to get your financially focused written retirement income plan put together, no cost, no obligation, just call in at Gulf Coast Financial Services or visit online, GulfCoastFinancial.net or 386-755-9018, 386-755-9018, as so many conscientious savers and investors across North Central Florida have already done so. But so many more, John, need the help and the assistance and need that financially focused written retirement income plan.
That's right. And don't forget about the book, Peter. It'll help you too.
Quitting is for winners. Love the title. Quitting is for winners, retirement not for wimps.
Yeah, I love that title too.
And you've got copies of that available there in the office, right, John?
Yes, we have that ready here at the office. Just tell us. We'll be glad to mail you a copy.
All right. Give a call. If you'd like a copy of Quitting is for Winners, but Retirement's Not for Wimps, just give a call now, 386-755-9018. John, as always, appreciate the conversation. I think this concern is on the mind of so many of us right now.
Thank you, Peter. You have a good week. We'll see you next week.
You too. Take care.
Hey, if you'd like a copy of our new book, Quitting is for Winners, but Retirement's Not for Wimps, I encourage you to click the link below and get your copy today. Hey, we like it when you listen to the show, but we like it better when you like, share, subscribe, or feel free to leave a comment.
Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and tune in for more financial focus by visiting GulfCoastFinancial.net. The information presented on this program is provided for informational purposes only, without warranty of accuracy, completeness, or suitability for a particular purpose. This program is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. This information is general in nature and not specific enough to be construed as advice. You should not make any decision based on the information presented on this program without independent consultation with an appropriately licensed professional or competent advisor. Investment in securities or the market involves a potential risk for loss of principal. Trading, therefore, may not be suitable for all listeners. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals of growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the product's features and costs. Early withdrawals may subject the owner to penalties, fees, or taxes. John Kuykendall is registered with and securities are offered through Kovac Securities, Inc., member FINRA SIPC, found online at www.kovacsecurities.com. Advisory services are offered through Gulf Coast Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor in Florida. Gulf Coast Financial Services, Inc. is not affiliated with Kovac Securities, Inc. or Kovac Advisors, Inc. Past performance is not indicative of future results. All investing involves risk. Investment decisions should be based on your own goals, time horizon, and tolerance for risk. Due to various factors, including changing market conditions and/or applicable laws, the content may no longer be reflective of current opinions or positions.